So, today we're going to tear into a 500-year-old book that's been called everything from a handbook for tyrants to a masterpiece of political science. We're talking about Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince. How is it that this short, scandalous book still has so much pull today? Well, let's dive in and find out.
Right off the bat, here's the question that sits at the heart of it all. But see, Machiavelli doesn't just ask this, he basically dares you to answer it. And how you answer says a lot about how you see power, leadership, and just, people in general. This one question, it's the key that unlocks his entire way of thinking. All right, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to jump back in time to the absolute chaos of the Renaissance that created this book. Then, we'll look at Machiavelli's actual blueprint for building a strong state. After that, we get to the really juicy stuff, the infamous playbook that gave him his reputation. And finally, we'll tackle the big one. Is this thing really just a guide for tyrants?
To really get The Prince, you have to understand the problem Machiavelli was staring at. I mean, this wasn't some philosophy professor thinking in an ivory tower. This was a man's desperate answer to the absolute mess he saw all around him.
You gotta picture this. The Italy that Machiavelli knew wasn't one country. Nope. It was more like a bloody chessboard, with all these warring city-states, foreign armies marching through, and alliances that would break in a heartbeat. Imagine a place where the law was just a suggestion, and stability was a total fantasy. Machiavelli saw, with his own two eyes, what happens when leaders are weak. And man, that's a lesson he never forgot.
So what was his fix for all this chaos? A single, strong, central ruler. And he came up with a term for it that sounds like a total contradiction. A democratic despot. I know, right? A democratic despot? But for Machiavelli, it made perfect sense. The idea was that this all-powerful ruler, the despot, gets their power from the need to protect the people, the demos. For him, desperate times called for a leader who was willing to do whatever it took to create order.
Okay, so you want to be this powerful prince. Where do you even begin? Well, Machiavelli says your whole strategy depends on how you got the top job in the first place. Because, believe me, not all rulers start on a level playing field.
So check out this split. It's fascinating. If you're a hereditary monarch, you were born into it, life is pretty good. People already accept you. As long as you don't do anything too crazy, you can just rule by habit. But if you're a new monarch, if you had to fight and claw your way to the throne, you've got a giant target on your back. You have to invent your own legitimacy, create new traditions, and you've got to innovate just to survive. The Prince is a survival guide for that second person. So how does this new prince actually build something that lasts? For Machiavelli, it all comes down to two main pillars, good laws and good arms. And he was absolutely obsessed with the good arms part. He hated mercenaries, hired guns who fought for money. He saw them as totally unreliable and dangerous. For him, a strong state needed its own citizens in its army, people fighting for their own homes. Because a ruler who controls his own military, well, he controls his own fate. That's the real foundation of power. And now, we're getting to the part of the book that everyone talks about, the playbook. This is where we get the advice that has made the word Machiavellian mean ruthless, cunning, and just plain sneaky.
And there it is, the most famous line in the entire book. So why? Why did he believe this? Well, his reasoning is chillingly practical. He said love is held together by, a sense of obligation, and people will break that chain whenever it's good for them. But fear is held in place by the dread of punishment, and that never goes away. But, and this is a huge but, a prince must avoid being hated. Hatred leads to rebellion, but being feared, that's just smart business.
So how do you walk that tightrope? How do you keep people afraid of you without making them hate you? To explain this, Machiavelli comes up with this brilliant metaphor. He says a prince can't just be one thing. He has to be two different animals at the same time. On one hand, the prince has to be the lion, brave, strong, ready to crush anyone who gets out of line. The lion is all about brute force and inspiring fear. But just being a lion isn't going to cut it because lions can be a little, dense. They can walk right into a trap. So the prince also has to be the fox, cunning, sly, and able to spot those traps a mile away. The fox is the one who sees what everyone else misses.
And that's the core of his whole strategy right there. You need both. You need overwhelming strength and you need sneaky intelligence. You have to know when it's time to roar and when it's time to be sly, because a leader who's only a lion will get outsmarted and a leader who's only a fox will get crushed. This brings us to his advice on cruelty, which, not gonna lie, is maybe the most unsettling part of the whole book. He basically argues that if you have to be cruel, you do it all at once. Be brutal, be decisive, and get it over with. Why? So the shock is quick and people can move on, instead of letting resentment build up over time. He even advises getting rid of the allies who helped you get power, because today's ally could be tomorrow's rival. It's like political surgery, one ruthless cut to secure power and, in his view, prevent more bloodshed later. And the fight isn't just physical, it's a total mind game. Machiavelli says a prince should be unpredictable. Make promises, break promises. Do whatever it takes to keep your enemies off balance. He was a master of understanding perception. He even told the prince to look religious and moral in public, no matter what he actually believed. For Machiavelli, it didn't matter what was true. It only mattered what people thought was true. Even his financial advice turns everything you think you know on its head. A prince, he says, shouldn't be known for being generous. He should be known for being a miser. Seriously. Why? Because if you're always giving away money, your treasury runs dry, and then you can't pay for your army. A reputation for being stingy might not make you popular, but it's a heck of a lot safer than being a generous leader who goes broke. It's all about holding on to power. So after hearing all of that, the lion, the fox, the calculated cruelty, we have to come back to that big question. Is this book really just a how-to guide for becoming a tyrant? What's its real legacy?
For 5 centuries, people have been arguing about this book. Seriously, is it a brilliant satire, secretly exposing the wicked ways of rulers for all to see? Is it the desperate plea of a patriot who just wanted any strong leader to come and unite his broken country? Or is it exactly what it looks like on the surface? A cold, effective, and amoral guide to how power really works.
So that's where we're left. What is The Prince? Is it a blueprint for oppression, or is it a brutally honest survival manual for a world where doing the right thing can get you killed? Maybe the most unsettling question Machiavelli leaves us with isn't about some prince from the 16th century, but about the leaders and the choices we're all still facing today.